is thinking about those so one of the things we're doing across our institution is starting to talk about the students who are coming into university for the first time. We're going to have a session at the end of June talking about having some experts in high school education. We're going to be talking about what the students have experienced, what they know and what they don't know, and also bringing on first-year professors who teach first-year courses to talk about the approaches that they use in their courses to really try to support and build connections with the students, knowing that for so many, not just first year students, but across, it'll be their first time coming onto campus. But as well for many who have had such different learning experiences over the past couple of years, that things will be very, very different. So within that, one of the things that we want to be doing and thinking about is how to support students' learning skills and continually building those learning skills. So the slide that I have here that I'm looking at, so I'll describe it, is from the World Economic Forum, and there's a big 50% on the slide, and it's 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2025. And so, who knows if that's actually going to be the case, but certainly we're in a place where, students are going to need to continually learn. We all need to continually learn. It's fast-paced. We really have to be able to identify what we know, what we don't know, what we need to know in order to work our way through all of this. There's a recent book that was written by Adam Grant called Think Again. And in that book, he talks about the power of knowing what you don't know. This idea of having the confidence to approach situations ready to succeed, while staying humble enough to ask questions, to seek help, and to stay curious all the way through. And it takes a lot of confidence to stay curious and to say, you know what, I don't know anything about that, and so I'm going to ask, or I didn't understand that. Can you tell me more? Can you walk me through that? And so thinking about how we can help students build those skills as well. So we really wanted to, in this project I'm going to tell you about, wanted to support students in becoming better learners, stronger learners, helping them take greater control of their learning process, and guide students to the essential components of becoming more efficient and effective learners. Thing is, this is something that we've all done to get to the points in our careers, in our studies, where we are today. We've had to become these really efficient and effective learners. And just like sometimes it can be hard to explain chemistry that we know, so well, that just seems, to be clear to us already. In the same way, it can be really hard to make those concepts that we already know really explicit. It can be really hard to make the learning strategies that we know explicit to students, and to ask other professors as well to be experts in teaching learning is a lot to ask. So we wanted to help out professors and other educators in doing that. One of the ways, the example I was going to give, I'll give it to you now here, just not through a slide, is if I give you a sentence, especially for people who learn English either as a first language or early on in their lives, it's going to sound, I think, a little bit off if I said a Canadian white, delightful, great snowfall. And I would guess that most people couldn't say why that is off. You might be able to correct it, might be able to say a delightful, great white Canadian snowfall, which would roll off the tongue a lot better. But most of us, who have learned English as our first or early language, wouldn't be able to say why that's wrong. Now, some people in the room who may have learned English as an additional language may be able to tell us that adjectives need to go in a specific order. First, the opinion, so delightful, then size, age, shape, color, origin, material, and purpose. So it really has to be specific. So the idea here is that we wanted to support educators who want their students to become stronger learners. We wanted to make it really easy. We wanted to have that explicit nature of teaching learning strategies, for them not to have to know, for us, not to have to know how it works, to still be able to support learners in this process. So this is where we made this growth and goals module. We wanted it to be systematic, scalable, so small courses, large courses, any discipline, any level, and we wanted to teach these learning skills explicitly, so students would know as they were learning them that they were learning these learning skills. So we've aligned this module. It can align in courses, align with the learning outcomes. As a bilingual institution, of course, we've created it in French and in English. We meet or exceed accessibility requirements throughout. And it was really important to us to have this available as an open education resource. So we know that, this one size fits all approach simply won't fit all. And so this module is adaptable as people choose to adapt it. So I won't have time to dive into the details. So I will say some of the really key parts that have come out of this, where we're teaching metacognition. So what do I know? What do I not know? And then teaching strategies to learn accordingly and according to the student's own goals, as well as associated psychological skills. So the idea of fixed and growth mindsets, the idea of mindfulness and being in the present moment. So as we're teaching those skills, this is either within a course or we even have a course independent version now. We've been studying how things are playing out for students as they're doing the module. So we've had over 6,000 students now who have used the module. For 80% of students, it's the first time they've done this kind of training. And over 75% complete the module as long as they get a tiny incentive, 1 or 2% of the course mark or even a bonus. So we've also seen their metacognitive skills increase quickly. We've seen just recently their academic results be higher for an experimental group versus a control group that we've created, and of course always with ethics approval. And we've also seen lower stress in the students who have done the module as an experimental group versus a control group. So we're going on with this with more evaluation of the module to see. We want to make sure that if we're creating something, it's going to work on different levels for students. And then we also have SSHRC funding to study the sort of downstream effects, if you will. So if students are learning this and there is indeed a benefit, well, what does that mean for the next course or the next year of student studies? So we're super excited about this. Students love talking about it in class. And so as we're thinking about building connections, not only with this can they build learning skills, but if you're also bringing it into class and they're talking about it, they are able then to talk with each other about their study strategies, their learning skills, and how they're doing. So I'm going to stop there. If you're interested in knowing more, I'd be delighted to talk more with anybody about it. And if anybody has any questions, and if we have any time left, I'd be delighted to hear from them, to hear from people.
Thank you, Alison, for illustrating resilience. And that was tremendous. I hope the audience will join with me in thanking Alison for a great talk. And we do have time for questions, and I'll turn the question period over to my colleague, Carl.
Yes, thanks, Chuck. And thank you, Alison. And yes, we have about 3 minutes for questions, at least at this point. So maybe people might put in the chat or certainly come to the microphone if they wish. In that awkward silence as we wait.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. Link to the OER was the question. I'll drop it into the chat. Thanks for that.
And Alison, if at all possible, to post it, the Padlet, when you have proper linking and things.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks. So I'll give you the site for our group, where it's going to have both the Brightspace link to it as well as the Pressbooks version. So even if you're not in our particular learning management system, you can still download and adapt the Pressbooks versions of it.
And I started a little comment in the Padlet with some of the suggestions that people had for engagement in online classes. So you'll see it there under your comments for the plenary.
Awesome, thanks.
It looks like Erica has a question. Do you see that, Alison?
I do see the question. Yeah. So what about reading comprehension? Yeah, I'd love to actually hear more about that as we keep going on and studying this. That has not come up in our focus groups before. And the second that or in the students' comments, but the second something like that comes up, it's something that our team definitely wants to know more about. So I'd love to hear more about your experience with that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's great. We're actually now working toward a version for graduate students. So stay tuned for that. We've had graduate students use it, but we really want it to adapt something that's that's going to be that much more tailored for grad students, you know, starting a research environment for the first time and thinking about what they have to know, what they need to learn. So that's the next direction that we're going.
That sounds like a really exciting resource. I think maybe it might be the appropriate time, however, to make the transition. We're at 34 minutes past the hour. So thank you again, Alison, again, for your resilience.
Thanks,
and
everybody.
Amazing conversation. And thanks. And this means that we're now moving on to our session A. The session A includes 2 concurrent sessions. So if you are interested in the A1 session, please stay in this room. If you're interested in the A2, please go to room 2. The moderator there is Chuck Lucy. The moderator here is John Lee. And our first speaker will be Andrew Dix.
Everybody, I'll try and share my screen, if that's okay.